Hello guys and gals, welcome back. This week I'm responding to a DM from Ross. He sent me this clip of Selena Fader playing a wicked new track.
I want to be president.
And he wanted to know what was going on with the chords there. Are they sevenths, ninths, suspended? What's going on? And I was like, no, they're just straight minor. What you're hearing there is Rave, baby. Well, I didn't actually call him baby on the DMs. That would have been a bit weird. But the chords are normal, but their relationship to the scale has changed. And I thought that would be a great excuse to explain what happens when you sample chords. Let's go. Okay, I've got a little recreate going on here. Good stuff. But before we dive in, we need to go over the rules, so then we know how to break them. Okay, so scales first. What makes a scale? Here we have A minor. All the white notes from A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. First 7 letters of the alphabet give us the A minor scale. Nice and simple, we know that by now. But what makes a scale the way it is? Why does it sound like it does? Why does it give us the same mood, regardless of what key we are in? It's all down to this pattern. It's because some notes are together and some notes are apart. You see this? These two apart, these two apart, these together, these apart. This pattern is what makes the scale sound like it does. So it doesn't matter what key we're in, A, D, F, C. This particular pattern is what gives us the minor vibe, right? The fact that these are always together and these are always together. Now, don't worry, we don't have to memorize this. We've got the white notes, right? Just know that each scale's pattern is what creates its unique vibe. They're not all just the same distance apart. Now, I'm just going to draw the scale out like this to the right. Here's our 7 notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm just going to build a chord on each note of the scale. So if you remember how to build a chord, it's miss 1, press 1, miss 1, press 1, okay? Still using all the white notes. So each chord is only made up of notes from the scale. Nice and simple. So there are the 7 chords of A minor. Now, if you're new to this, what you might not know is that not every chord in a minor scale is minor. And that goes for any other scale. Not every chord in a major scale is major, for example. Dorian, Frisian, you name it. This scale pattern on the left here has forced some to be different shapes. So obviously chord 1 here in A minor is A minor. What makes a minor chord is when these 2 notes are this distance apart, when they're 2 apart like this. Now I'm speaking in terms of total notes here, not just the scale notes. So I'm including the black notes here. So these are 2 apart. And above is 3 apart. That shape is what makes a minor chord. 2 apart down there, 3 apart up there. Now if you look at the rest of our chords here, the only other chords in our scale with the same minor shape are chords 4 and chord 5. So only chords 1, 4, and 5 in a minor scale are minor. When a chord has this shape, with a 3 distance here and 2 above, this is a major shape. This is a major chord. So chord 3 in a minor scale is major, but also chord 6 and chord 7. So a minor scale has just as many minor chords as it does major chords. 1, 4, and 5 minor, 3, 6, and 7 major. Chord 2 is neither major or minor. It's what we call a diminished chord. This pattern of 2 below, 2 above is diminished. Diminished chords sound a bit weird. We don't use them that often. You'll hear me say that a lot. But the point is, not every chord is the same shape. Because of our scale rules, our pattern here, some chords form different shapes. So now we understand that, let me show you what happens when you sample a chord. Right, let's get sampling. We've got some cellos here from the free plugin BBC Symphony Orchestra by Spitfire. We're going to sample a single chord stab from it. Now, the chord in Selena's track actually had a slightly different voicing. So we take these bottom two notes and we add them the octave up as well. So it's these 5 notes, still a straight minor chord, but we have an extra octave and a third on top. Sounds like that. So I've sampled that here. Listen to the audio. Okay. Okay, so what's happening when you sample a chord is this shape is now fixed, regardless of where you trigger it. I'm just going to move this chord over. Let me quickly draw in our scale for reference again. Going to keep going up the octave as well. So now we have this fixed sample. Look what happens if I were to trigger it on note 3. Aha. Remember, note 3 in the minor scale was not minor, but this is a minor shape. We have no control over the sample. And now we have these notes which are no longer in the scale. Same if we trigger, for example, chord 6. Chord 6 is not usually minor in a minor scale. Somebody call the scale police. And that is where the rave vibe comes from. I call it static harmony, because harmony is the relationship between multiple pitches, right? And this relationship is now static inside the sample. Static harmony gives us the ravey vibes. Okay, so let's look at that in context now in the Selena track. I have taken one more sample. We have some violins, just playing an octave like this. No chord, just that. Because there's an extra top line I could hear in there as well. And our cello stab is here from before. Now, one question you might have is why not just program the MIDI as static harmony instead of sampling and triggering the chord that way? And that's because different things happen when you play with samples versus triggering MIDI instruments. If I play back the cello playing the chords from MIDI here, and then if you hear what happens to them when they're sampled and triggered, so one reason is there are things I can do to the sample in the audio domain that I can't do to the MIDI. The other main reason is pitching a sample is very different sounding to pitching an instrument, especially with an orchestra sample like this. When we trigger higher pitches on the cello instrument, we'll be getting a different sample of a cello playing higher up. Okay. Whereas when a sampler has to manipulate the pitch of a single sample, the sound quality is going to change. Just like when you pitch up a human voice, you get the chipmunk effect, right? It doesn't just sound like a smaller person or a person speaking higher. It changes the sound quality, what we call the timbre. So part of that whole rave and hip-hop vibe is what happens to the timbre of the sample when it gets pitched around. Now, speaking of sample artifacts, I've added some more here with the free plugin Crush by Triptych. We're using it for a little bit of distortion and a bit of bit crushing. Actually, no, sample crushing here. Trying to emulate the low sample rate of some of the really old samplers. So here's the notes from Selena's riff. It's 7, 1, and 4. So that means only note 7 is the truly ravey outlier in this line. Because if you remember, chords 1 and 4 were supposed to be minor in a minor scale anyway. 7 is the outlier. That's supposed to be major, and now it's minor. So all our ravey vibes are coming from this single 7 chord being minor here and the sound of the samples. Let's hear the cello stab. I have backed that up with a synth. Of course, it's vital. I also backed it with a piano synth layer. I'm using Meatbeat's micro piano for this one. There's another vital synth layer in there. This is just me trying to sound like the classic landlord stab. And together those three sound like this. And then on the top we have the octave line. That's the violin octave I sampled earlier. And this also has a little synth layer for some extra high frequencies. It's the same notes as the lower line, but in octaves. But it does have a turnaround on bar 4, which is what alerted my ears to the fact that that wasn't part of the same sample, because that changed and the bottom didn't. So all together, sounding like this. Okie dokie, that's going to do it for this week. I hope you learned something on how to rave. You can show your appreciation with the like button and sub button. You could buy me a coffee in the link in the description, or leave me a comment or questions and I will get back to you. And I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye bye.